Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I am showing you what is in my fall mom basket. I call it my Scholé basket. Some people call it their morning basket. For me, it's just a basket full of books that I like to have on hand so that when I get those 10 minutes here, 10 minutes there, I can grab, a book as I run out the door to go to a dance lesson, or I can sit on the couch while dinner's in the oven and my kids are playing and thumb through something. I also spend, about 45 minutes in the morning with some of these books, and then I try to be intentional about using time during my kids' quiet time to just sit down and read for a minute. But you guys know, as moms, when you've got kids running underfoot and there's a lot going on, it's so easy to just pick up your phone and scroll when you have a couple minutes here and there. So this basket really is just something that I use as a physical tool to guard my heart as a woman from just getting thrown tons of unnecessary information all day long, because my knee-jerk reaction is to just pick up my phone. So I've really used this basket over the last year or so just to train myself to go toward this basket, grab something good, something worthy of my time, something edifying or encouraging, or just some of it's just mindless, but it's uplifting and not like something that's discouraging me just by getting on social media or the news. So I use this just to have just to be intentional with the little pieces of time that I have throughout the day. And as you know, when you piece together all of those small moments, you actually get a good amount of time sometimes. I at least know that when I get my screen report weekly, like, oh wow, I had quite a few hours every single day available apparently. So this basket has just been helpful for me in that sense. I give this disclaimer every month, or every time I share this every few months. I am not finishing all of these books in each, season. I am not reading all of them at the same time either. I just like to, at the beginning of each season, shop my shelves a little bit and piece together what I think is going to be a worthy use of my time that season. And then, I'll reevaluate come winter and pull some things out. Some things I'll keep in, some things I won't get to at all. But these are just the things that I've stuck in the basket for now that I want to spend little bits of time reading and flipping through. So here is what is in my fall morning basket. So the first few things I share every single time that I do this video. I have my own personal Bible journal in here. This is just a Anna Vance journal that I created, this custom cover. I use the verse John 3:30. That is kind of like my verse for this school year. So I like to put that on all of my Anna Vance stuff. And then I also have my Bible, and I have my notes from church in there still, apparently. And one thing that I like to use, so in the morning, I just do straight Bible study. I don't use any like devotionals or anything in my morning time. I like to just read the Bible straight up. And I'll read a few chapters of the Old Testament, and I'll read a couple chapters of the New Testament. So like, for example, if I'm in Joshua, I'll read like 3 or 4 chapters in Joshua. And then if I'm in, Acts, then I'll read 1 or 2 chapters. And doing it that way, I finish the Old Testament and the New Testament about at the same time. So that is how I read the Bible. But the only supplement that I bring into my Bible reading time currently is this Bible handbook from the Daily Grace Co. This has been such a fun thing to add to my Bible reading. Very interesting if you like history. They also just came out with the theology handbook that I just purchased, and it just hasn't been delivered yet. So it goes through each book of the Bible, and it gives you a little overview, some information on the setting, the characters, and then it also has valuable information like symbols and timelines, and there are maps in here as well. Cyrus' decree and the rebuilding of Jerusalem. And so every time that I get through a different book of the Bible and I go to start another one, which is, every few days or so, I will just pick this up and I will look at a quick little overview of that book of the Bible. And it gives me some context, and it also reminds me, like, oh, that's right, this story's in there from the last time I read it. I may have forgotten that. So this has just been a nice little supplement to bring in a little bit of history and just a little overview before I read each book of the Bible. So that is the first thing. I keep that in there because I keep this basket in my room, and we have a little Bible study area in our room that we have pieced together. If you saw my August goals a couple months back, I had talked about how I wanted to finish our room, and it took a while, but we found the perfect little crushed velvet chairs and little table and, you know, just pretty little things to put on the wall. And John and I both have a Bible study space in our room now. So that was a big goal of mine that I finally have accomplished. So I keep this basket right in that area. So I'll go sit over there in the morning and work on that. Now, is it the only other Bible study? Yes, well, not really, but the Bible study that I have in there that I'm working on right now, and this I'm working on this month. So when this month is over, I'll be just about done with this study, and I'll put a different one in there. I love the Daily Grace Co.'s books of the Bible studies. This is the Women of the Bible study from them, Daughters of Grace. I'm doing this one with Isabella and my mom right now. This is a 5-week study. Okay, so I guess I have a couple extra weeks left. It goes through a bunch of different women of the Bible, and it's just 5 days a week. So I will usually read this in the afternoon or in the evening, or this is one of the ones that I will like pick up when I'm running out the door. So Eli has a 30-minute golf lesson 1 day a week. It's the perfect time for me to do like 2 of the days. It's a very light lesson. It doesn't take much time at all, which is why it's a great starter women's Bible study for Isabella, because she doesn't really want to do the kids' Bible studies anymore with my younger kids. So I've started buying some of the Daily Grace Co studies for her as well. And then we meet with my mom once a week, and she teaches us how to sew. I really need to learn how to sew because Bella's point shoes and all of that, I end up just sending over to her every time. So she's teaching Bella and I how to do some simple sewing, and then we will discuss that week's Bible study. So it's been a very fruitful thing for us 3 ladies to do together. So I have this in there, and I don't do it 5 days a week. Like I said, I'll catch up on like a couple days at a time, but I keep it in there. A couple of other Bible things in here. So usually in the evenings, John and I will read one of these Love Language Minute devotionals. If you guys know, the 5 love languages, we read that, and we read the 5 love languages of children. And then also in the evening or during my afternoon time, I will grab Power of a Praying Parent, Power of a Praying Wife, and just pray through one of the prayers in each of these books. This Power of a Praying Wife, you guys will see, it's really well loved. This book I got the year that we got married, I think, or just a couple years after, and I have been through it so many times. There's 30 prayers in here, and it just goes over, different things like his future, his faith, his talk, his mind, his fears, his purpose, his choices, his health, just things that help me turn my heart toward different things I can be covering John in prayer for. And then it also, as you know, when you pray, it just makes you aware of things and softens my heart toward him in those areas as well. So it's like I'm both, covering him in prayer, but also reminding myself of all these different things that I can be intentional with. And then Power of a Praying Parent, same deal. Learning to speak life, praying through a child's room, inviting the joy of the Lord, breaking down ungodly strongholds, growing in faith, avoiding addictions, being the person God created, securing protection from harm. So this is just another thing where it's like, okay, these are prayers I can be praying over my children now and in their adult lives as well. So I keep a couple of those little prayer books in here as well. So those are the Bible study type books. You guys see almost all of those every single month, but I go through them every time just in case. Next, I have a couple of other little things that I like to, spend some of my brain power on. So this Laying Down the Rails for Yourself, this is the one that I most often grab when I'm heading out the door for an activity. This is by Sonia Schaefer of Simply Charlotte Mason, and I grabbed this back in May, and I've just been going through it here and there for a few months now. I read like a page or 2 at a time. This is one though where like every time you read a page, you're like, I needed to hear that. I needed to hear that too. So this one it's a really small book. It can be you can fly through it, or you can really go through it with a fine-tooth comb. that's what I'm doing right now. I always try, when we are approaching a heavy topic in school, I try to read up on it myself first. As most of you know, last year we did the book, it was Follow the Drinking Gourd, and that in 5 in a row with my kids. And so I spent about a month ahead of that reading some authentic slave narratives, and that was actually a book recommendation from Joseph McGill of the Slave Dwelling Project. We have had the opportunity to sit in a couple of his talks a couple of times, and it really has been really good for me. I've learned a lot, and I always thought that I, was doing an okay job researching hard, true history, but the way he presents it, the stories that he shares, has just encouraged me to continue digging deeper. So I read that, and then also a few months later, we studied the Holocaust in our Story of the World history, and so I read just a fiction, book, but it was set in that time, and it helped me kind of pull together some of the history that I had studied in high school, and just gave me some reminders, gave me like a little bit of a refresher course, so to speak, on that side of history, that hard history as well. Now we are about to do Who Owns the Sun. If you have read that book, it's a very short book. It's not a lot of words, but it, for me, is it's one of the children's books that has just stuck with me. I've read it a few times before reading it to my kids, and it's just a tough one. And so I know that the age that my older ones are at, they have lots of questions. They like to talk about things a lot. And so I just wanted to kind of get my mind back there before they ask questions. And so that being said, and just being a lover of history myself and always wanting to collect books that reflect history, I grabbed Roots. I've never read Roots before, nor have I seen this major event series that is on, is it the History Channel? Yeah. I have not seen this. I have not read this. And so this is going to be heavy. I already know it. It is, how many chapters is it? Because I figured if I read, the chapters are actually pretty short. So I figured if I read this in bits and pieces, then I would get through it in a couple of months. So, does it say? Well, I'll just flip to the back here. Yeah, there's like 120 chapters or so. 119? Yeah, but I'll show you. Like, here's chapter 93. Just a few pages long, and then chapter 94. So it's definitely something I can read in bits and pieces, and I don't need to like read the whole book at once, but I got this. This is like my stiff book that I would say, one where it's growing my mind and also emotionally tough to read as well. So I got that. So I shopped my shelves, and I grabbed off of my little lamplighter shelf, fastened like nails. This is just the story of 5 different, men from the church, and just how, like Martin Luther is in here, how God's word transformed their lives. So just 5 very simple stories in here. It's just a quick read, one for when I'm sitting down for 5 minutes here or there, but just a good thought to take away. Another quick read when I just have a minute is this Hymns for a Mother's Heart. This is a sweet one. I got this for all of my girlfriends in my co-op as like a beginning of the school year little gift. So for example, it's got it as well. It's got the story, and then it has just a little prayer for the mother and for the children. And then if you want to write down any notes, it's in there as well. I also have For the Children's Sake. So For the Children's Sake and Laying Down the Rails for Yourself. These are the 2 that travel with me. So I'm kind of alternating between those. And I think I might have even shown this in my last like summer morning basket video. So that's how quickly I'm reading through some of these. I also have 100 Best Loved Poems. I always like to find new poems to memorize. I ask my kids to memorize poetry in our homeschool, and it's fun to share. We have a sharing time in our co-op where the moms or children can share poems that they're reciting, and so I like to challenge myself with that as well. And then I also, the last book I have in here, I wanted to have a novel. If you're familiar with the idea, like I think it was presented in, what is it called? Mother Culture. It's to have always have three books. One book that is stiff, one book that is, what's the word? I'll put it down below. Not easy, but an easier for you to read book, and then a novel. And I don't know, my dad always read Sherlock Holmes. I actually borrowed this from him. I'm just a couple of chapters in to A Study in Scarlet. That's the reason I have this. I just wanted to read that one, but he had the whole entire book, so it looks hefty. I'm not getting through the whole thing, but I just wanted to read A Study in Scarlet because I just remember my dad always reading Sherlock Holmes, or my brother and dad referencing Sherlock Holmes when I was growing up, and I've never read it myself, so I thought it would be fun to read. I have a couple of very, very simple, lighthearted things in here as well for when I just want to sit down with something refreshing. I have a little book of Hugo, Danish Secrets to Happy Living. This is just a little cutesy read about how the Danish live. So Hugo all year round, not just for Christmas. Let's see, the best things in life are free, hot drinks, just little things. This is like a coffee table type of book. I just keep it in my basket, just little happy thoughts. And then I also always have the newest edition of Wild and Free. I'm very protective over these just because I think they're so beautiful. So I get a sampler in the mail every month, and then the online bundle has many more articles. If you don't follow me on Instagram, I recently shared that I am now a Wild and Free contributor as well, and I'm very excited about it. So it makes me even more protective of these samplers just because I feel like I'm in community with these women now. So Wild and Free is such a beautiful subscription, and it just makes me really happy, and surprisingly really inspires me a lot more than I thought. When I first subscribed to them about a year ago for the monthly content bundles, I didn't think that it would speak to my heart as much as it has, which is why then I started contributing as well. It really has been very life-giving for me. And then you guys know, because I'm 84, I get Tea Time magazine, and this is a fun one that I just like to flip through, and Bella borrows it all the time as well. These are recipes that are not very simple. You know, they all take some time. They take a little bit of skill, but every now and then when we do Poetry Tea Time, we will take the time to make something nicer or put together a little bit more of a formal tea time. And so we get our inspiration from Tea Time magazine there. So that is what is in my basket. I will also say that I had mentioned in my goals video back from September that I was wanting to make use of my time in the car, and I have blown through a few audiobooks this month. So I had recently listened to, that was like a lot of switching gears. Okay, I recently listened to After Doubt by AJ Swoboda. That was a 9-hour audiobook, I want to say, and it was one where like every 10 minutes I had to stop and process. So it took me a very long time to get through that audiobook. It was really good. So I tried to get a few books recently that were just a little bit easier to listen to, that kind of felt more like listening to a podcast. I listened to Eve in Exile in like 3 days. And then it recommended a couple of Nancy Wilson books, The Fruit of Her Hands and Building Her Home, I think. I listened to those. Those were like a day's worth of driving reads, like 2 hours each, I want to say. And all three of those books, I gleaned something from each of those books. I don't want to say like I highly recommend all of them, because I, one, don't listen to them with full attention when I'm driving, so I can't say like I back everything that was said. But I can tell you that from each of those books I pulled something, probably most from Eve in Exile, although there were still a couple things I disagreed with, as there always will be when something's written by a human being and not God himself, right? So that I would recommend Eve in Exile out of the three I just mentioned. Right now I'm reading The Making of Biblical Womanhood, and this is one where I've been like, do I want to, do I not? Do I want to, do I not? So I'm reading through that with really just asking for discernment as I read through it, because I just want to be aware and on guard when I read anything that is maybe a little maybe considered a little edgy or just different. I like to be very aware of what I'm stepping into, that I'm not actually reading the Bible itself when I'm listening to what somebody has written. So those are the audiobooks that I have read or am reading in September as well. Just wanted to mention that. Let me know down below what you guys are reading this fall. I would love any recommendations, audiobook recommendations that you guys have. And like I said, this might seem like a lot. I don't get through all of it. It's all just bits and pieces, just a basket of inspiration so that I don't just grab this all the time. So that is what I'm reading through this fall. Let me know what you guys are reading down in the comments down below, and I will see you soon. Bye guys.